Thank you, Creso. Thank you for your very objective presentation, introduction. Obviously, way too kind, but so it's a pleasure to be here. Does it work? And then what do I do to get my presentation for me? Help. It's a pleasure to be back here and to have this opportunity to present this joint work, ongoing work with Jean Tirole. Thank you. F5. From there I can take it on. Thank you. So this is the topic of the day is really the general issue I would like to address is what should be the attitude of industry supervisors, be it industry-specific regulators or competition agencies. What should be the attitude towards commercial cooperation among firms? And you see this comes in many different ways. You can have mergers, full mergers. You can have joint ventures. You can have marketing alliances. In the context of intellectual property rights, which was our motivating example initially, it can take the form of patent pools, where you have the owners, the holders of intellectual property rights of patents, will that bear or that read on some technology will put together their pieces of IP in order to market this as a whole, to market the technology, if you wish, as a whole. And for this kind of technology, there are zillions of patents that are involved, so it may be quite astute indeed to pool those patents together to ask the equipment manufacturers, the handset manufacturers, the telecom infrastructure equipment manufacturers can get a license on the whole technology in a relatively simple way. That's exactly the issue, avoiding a patent thicket, royalty stacking, you name it. Now, of course, competition agencies are there in particular to avoid competitors, to avoid that they can bypass, circumvent competition and cartelize the industry instead. And so we know that if you have substitute owners or sellers of a substitute good or services, it's not a good idea to let them join forces. They will just cartelize the industry, monopolize the industry. That's not a good idea. It's not a good idea because, in the short term, you may have excessive prices and, allocative distortions. In the longer term, the best of monopoly rents is the quiet life, as we know, since John Hicks, and that may also have a drastic perverse effect in the longer term. So, when it comes to substitutes, clearly, we don't want competitors or suppliers of substitute goods or services to be able to cartelize the industries. At the same time, when it comes to complements, and this is the issue with royalty stacking, we want to avoid double marginalization. So if you have, if a Creso is a supplier of nuts and I'm the supplier of screws, and you are all interested in bolts, which, in case you don't have a deep engineering, deep background in engineering, means that just a screw and a nut, it may make sense to sell those bolts, as a one single piece, rather than having you to find screws on the one hand and nuts on the other hand. In the context of technologies, again, in some technologies, it takes the form of zillions of patents. It may make sense to avoid the multiplication of margins on each and every bit of technology, and having an excessive margin overall. It may make sense to allow the owners of complementary pieces of IP to allow them to issue licenses for the whole, for the package. So the issue is, are we dealing with complements or substitutes? And unfortunately, this issue is not necessarily very easy to figure out. There are some cases, I I can have a choice between competing brands of mineral waters. That's pretty clear. These are substitutes. In other cases, in the example of the bolts that I was mentioning, it's pretty clear that they are complements. In many other instances, I would submit it's not so clear-cut. I encourage you to read a famous decision by the European Commission in a merger case. It was a proposed merger between Grandmet and Guinness. These are companies, you may know Guinness for the beer, but these are two companies that actually had quite large portfolios of alcoholic beverages. And one had the leading brand of whiskey, which happens to be a Johnny Walker. If you can learn this if you read the decision, so I really encourage you to go and have a look. The other one had the leading brand of gin or vodka. And therefore, one of the questions that was key in this decision was whether gin and whiskey are they complements or substitutes. And if you go through the decision, there were some pages where you can see that the implicit presumption is that obviously these are two substitute products. And there were other pages where it's pretty clear, maybe they were written by different people, where it was very clear that the presumption was that instead they were complements. Now, think of throwing a party. If you want to throw a small size party, and you only need one bottle, then obviously they are going to be substitutes. You have to choose between going for whiskey or going for gin. If instead you are planning for bigger party, or maybe party with more heavy drinkers, then you need at least 2 bottles. In which case, rather than having 2 bottles of whiskey or 2 bottles of gin, it may make sense to have one of each. In which case, there will be more complements. So it really depends on the consumer needs. It may be the case that for some consumers, these will be substitutes. For other consumers, these will be complements. When it comes to patent pools, put yourself in the shoes of competition agencies that, they are not engineers. They have not spent all their years investing in this particular industry, in the detailed knowledge about this particular technology and the latest development in this particular technology. And there they have to look at patents and figure out whether those patents are reading on complementary pieces of technology that are both essential ingredient of the whole technology, or whether these patents are reading on alternative ways or alternative bits of technologies that could be used, that could perform the same function in the whole technology. And this may be quite difficult. It may be quite difficult to figure out whether indeed you are talking of substitutes of complements. Moreover, this may evolve over time. There are new applications of the technology that may emerge, and it could be the case that for a previous application, these were complements. For the new application, they may instead be substitute. It's really tricky. I'm going to try to convince you that the issue is even more blurred by the fact that not only it's ambiguous and difficult to do, but it's endogenous, in the sense that it may also depend on the level of prices. To come back to my my gin vodka example, if in countries where alcohol is very cheap, and therefore each bottle costs very little, then you may be more easily, you may be more likely to buy 2 bottles rather than 1. In countries where, like Norway or others, where the prices for alcoholic beverages are simply outrageous, you may rather go for 1 bottle. So depending on the price level, you may end up with complements or substitutes. And I'll give you a little example that tries to capture this idea. Now, so when it comes to industry oversight, the implication for this is that, on the one hand, if you have industry-specific regulators that may acquire the knowledge and may invest and make sure that they have the detailed knowledge to figure out whether they are dealing with complement substitute, that's fine. But for competition agencies that have to deal with, where they go from the banana industry one day to the alcoholic beverages industry the other day, to the vitamins the next day, and so forth, it may not be completely straightforward for them to figure out exactly whether they're dealing with complements or substitutes. When it comes to patent pools, now of course, if they cannot tell whether they are dealing with essential pieces of IP that are complementary pieces of IP, or whether they are dealing with substitute, their instinct reaction will be to be very conservative and to say, to be very cautious about those patent pools or joint marketing alliances, which means that then, this in the end, short of being able, for the point of view of the firms, from the point of view of the IP owners, short of being able to license, to market their technologies jointly, this creates a huge legal dispute, and there are a couple of ongoing high-profile cases at the moment that relate to this aspect. So our take on this is that it will be very nice if we could come up with what we call information-free screening devices, i.e. kind of remedies or undertakings, screening tests that require very little information about the characteristics of the goods, or that don't require to figure out whether we are dealing with complement substitute, will work and make sure that we screen out bad commercial cooperation without letting or encouraging or letting